Today I'm going to be discussing just my favorite things that I like about this car, what in my eyes makes it a phenomenal car in a car era that's so just competitive. There's so many options on today's market nowadays, and so many of those options are just so good. So to me, this car still stands out in a very competitive car market. For most of you, this is not going to be really any surprise. My favorite thing, and what I'm going to be talking about first, is just the way this car drives. You know, from a stock standpoint, it's got a good amount of power. It's got a good handling, overall feel of handling, but that's not really what sets us apart from competition. It's the size of it is perfect for canyon roads. So a lot of cars nowadays are so wide and just so long that you really can barely even fit in between your lane in a canyon road. This car, however, you have a little bit of space, so that means you can kind of control where you want to go a little bit more, and you can go a little bit faster around canyons because of the size of this car. This car actually has the same dimensions as an E46 M3, one of the best M3s ever made, if not the best. So it's got a really good feel on the road because of the size of it, and the steering is lightweight. However, what's really good about the steering is the fact that it's so fast. You are able to make any little adjustment and it responds immediately through the steering. There is still a sense of road feel, and there is a little bit of weight behind the steering as well, especially when it's in sport mode, which is really nice. It does its best to, you know, kind of resemble that hydraulic steering that BMWs used to have. The Achilles heel of the electric steering, however, is, you know, you can't feel the road surface as much as you can in a hydraulic. Hydraulic steering, you can feel every little bump, pebble, you know exactly what the wheels are doing. The electric steering is a little bit less connected to the road. However, it's not fully disconnected from the road like some electric steering. So it is still a pretty good electric steering rack. Then another thing, you know, from a stock standpoint, this car's power is, it's nothing insane. It's not going to light your hair on fire, but it has a meaty power band. It's really has power all the way up through the RPM range, which is really nice. And what's really cool is you can wind this car out a little bit and not be going like 150 miles an hour. So you're able to wind the car out and go through the gears and actually be on the throttle for a while without really like breaking the speed limit, without going to jail, you know, for a super speeder. So that's a nice feature. And for some people, the power this car makes stock is going to be plenty. They won't need to do any other upgrades to it. It really is a great power band. But for some, like myself, who've done modifications to it, it's a fantastic platform to modify. I mean, and one ESS tune, that's all that's done to it, basically, for a performance standpoint, and the catless turbovac exhaust, and you're getting a hell of a lot more horsepower and torque, and for relatively not much more money. In Mexico, I took this car like 170 miles an hour. It will hit 170 miles an hour with the tune that I have on it. I literally have, I maxed out my speed limiter, and this car's coded and has a digital speedometer right under the main speedometer, and it hit 170, which is insane with the chip and exhaust. It's a good all-around power band without being excessively, you know, light your hair on fire, powerful to where you're going to be breaking speed limits on a public road. That kind of speed is, you know, obviously I'd love to have that car this fast, but for the majority, that speed really doesn't matter unless you're, you know, going to track on a regular basis. So that's really one of the great things about this car. And once you get suspension, a little bit stiffer springs, suspension's great for getting stiffer feel and minimizing body roll without sacrificing ride comfort. So this is my daily driver, and it's not jarring at all. Nothing has changed in terms of comfort. However, it's stiffer and it's less body roll. So now it just improved the handling of the car so much more. So much more. It's able to be really quick around canyon roads. Like, the size of it, the way the suspension's tuned, the steering, and just the overall chassis that it sits on, it's a really good performer when it comes to handling. And that's mainly the purpose that you would get something such as the M235, because there's all kinds of other cars that are way bigger engines that can go easily, just easier platforms for them to go faster in a straight line. Not saying this car can't make insane numbers and do insane quarter-mile times, because it can with the right amount of upgrades, but you know, this car is really more about the handling attributes, and it excels in that. It feels, you know, it just feels so precise. Precise is just the one word that when anyone takes this car to drive and they go up on canyons and they really let loose a little bit and go on a spirited run, they're gonna really understand, you know, the car goes exactly where you want it to go, and it gives you a sense of confidence, but it doesn't give you a sense of vagueness. So you still feel what the car is doing beneath you, and it can still, if you go fast enough, you're gonna experience some sketchiness. It's not gonna be like some cars, some all-wheel drive cars, some really high performance cars where you feel completely comfortable. You kind of lost that connection with the road, and you're just so comfortable until that 1 second where you just lost grip all at once. It's just a little too late and you never saw it coming or never felt it coming. This car, you can feel when it's, you know, losing its grip a little bit around the corners, or, you know, just kind of being pushed over like the boundaries. You can feel that. So that's a really good attribute. So the next thing that I really love about this car, especially considering that this is my daily driver, is the fact that it is extremely practical. It's extremely practical to the sense of it being a sports car that's a coupe and a relatively small platform at that. So I'm gonna basically walk you around all the practicality features of this car and show you, but you can live with this car as a daily driver, no problem. I've had this car for almost 2 years now, and there's never been a time that I've been like, oh man, I really wish I had another car. Like, I really wish this had more room in it. There's none of that. It's the perfect size. I wish the new M3s would go more to this size. I wish the M5s would, you know, go to how the new M3s are. Like, this is the perfect size for a sports car as far as I'm concerned, and you're really not missing out on any practicality. So I'm gonna go around the car and show you basically what makes this car so practical in my eyes. So this is from basically my driving position. I sit really far back. I'm about 5'10" and a half, and I can still fit behind me from that driving position. Put it in perspective, I know people who are 6 foot, 6'1", who don't even sit as far back as me. So this is a good kind of reference to be able to understand the practicality of the back seats of this car, which in a lot of cases, a small coupe like this, the back seats are basically unusable. In this one, that's not the case. So I still have about a ½ inch of legroom. The seat, granted, I have to have my legs a little spread apart, which is no problem. The seats aren't touching my legs at all. I have plenty of foot room, and I still, at 5'10" and a half, I have, if I sit super straight up, like as straight as I can, my hair will touch the ceiling a little bit, but just like a slight hunch, as most people sit anyways. Most people don't have, you know, the best posture, like sit straight up as a board. You won't even really hit your head on the ceiling. So if you're 6 foot, sure, you're gonna graze the ceiling a little bit, but you know, for the most part, the majority of people can sit back here relatively comfortable. even if someone 6 foot or above is sitting in the driver's seat or in front of them. So that's a really great thing about this car, that it's able to sit 4 people relatively comfortably in such a small compact coupe design. And I said 4 people because there's no actual middle seat. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's actually this little tray, which I prefer over a middle seat, because I really don't think anyone could sit between in this spot. I think it's a little too slim for really anyone besides like maybe like 100-pound person, if that, could fit in this seat. So I think they did a really good job at turning this little wasted space into actually a more practical, you know, storage area. So I have my charger in the back here. It's just like a 1-foot cable, and it's perfect for just placing your phone just in this tray. Final thing that makes this car really practical is just the overall trunk size. I'm sure it's hard to see kind of with the lighting that I have right now, since the sun's kind of going down, but you can fit 2 golf bags in here, no problem, and still have room for various other things. There's pockets on the side to hold stuff. I got just random miscellaneous junk in there basically, and a couple golf balls. And you know, there's an outlet in the back, which is cool, nice to have. And then there's a little like space in here which houses the battery. There's like this weird, I don't know, it's kind of a cork. It's like a, I guess, a cup holder. It's just an odd little thing, but hey, you can store, I don't know, some change in there or something. Actually, probably not some change. That'd probably be bad right next to the battery, but something you can store in there, which is pretty cool. And there's also tie downs on either side, plus another little net for whatever you want to hold in there. So overall, the trunk itself is practical and it's big, especially considering the size of this car. So that's another great feature. Another thing that I really like about this car is the reliability. And I know that's going to be a controversial subject to some people, because a lot of people have this conception that BMWs aren't reliable and they'll cost you a hell of a lot of money, especially, you know, in the future, like over 50,000, over 100,000 miles. And based off the experience I've had with this car, based off people who have owned newer generation BMWs that are car enthusiasts and really take care of their car, they're really actually bulletproof if you take care of them properly. If you do oil changes sooner than when it's even really expected to, just proper maintenance, spark plugs when they're due or before they're due a little bit, especially depending on how, like, judge how hard you drive the car and then make adjustments from there. So if you really hammer your car, your BMW, and the spark plugs are supposed to be changed every 30,000 miles, which is the case in this car, get them done every 20,000 miles. Just those little, it's a little bit more expensive to do that more frequently, but you're saving yourself from having an issue that would be a heck of a lot more expensive. I know people who have N55 engines with over 50, 60, 70,000 miles on it and have no problems whatsoever. This car has treated me exceptionally well. There's been no issues whatsoever with the car. I've had the modifications on in regards to suspension, the full exhaust system, and the tune now for about 6,000 miles, and there's been no issues still with the car. Another thing that's really cool with BMWs that late 2015s and before have is 3 years maintenance free program. So everything's covered under a BMW warranty for like an entire 3 years of when you bought the car. BMW doesn't do this anymore, which is really unfortunate, but it's really cool to have. If you want to buy like a used M235i, you'll still get that deal, which covers everything, like everything besides tires, which is awesome. Even windshield wipers. So that's really cool. There's really, if you just keep, you know, proper maintenance of the car, you can be hard on it and this car will run for a long time. One last thing I want to say is my next video, it's already planned and it will be coming out next week, probably mid next week. I was gonna do it today, but I don't have a charger for my GoPros, so I had to order one on Amazon. And the next video is gonna be me driving it, driving this M235, and I'm gonna give you my reactions of how it drives. You're gonna get to see some like canyon runs, and I'll be able to talk better about really how this car drives when, you know, I'm actually driving it. So obviously I'm gonna have GoPros mounted on the windshield, and then I'll have like a GoPro in like the exterior of the car, probably right above the exhaust, or maybe in the front of the car, I'm not sure yet. So you can kind of see like a visual representation of how fast the car's going on the canyon roads with just with me driving it, and while I'm talking about it as well. So that is gonna be a really cool video, I'm sure, and I really look forward to it. And once again, guys, I thank you so much for tuning in and watching these videos. It's really motivation to me to continue to make them, and just, I don't know, it brightens my day. So thank you guys so much, and I hope you're having a wonderful day or night, and stay tuned for the next one.